All right, let's close things off. Let's bring it home. Talk the NAIA scene. Only 2 games to recap, just like the other levels. But here, per usual, the constant Schwarzler is back. What's up, fella?
Not much. Just hanging out. Just enjoying my Monday, I guess, when we're recording this after a good week of football.
Yeah.
Um, what can I say? There's 2 teams left. we've reached
Yeah.
we've reached the peak of the mountain here.
You would think
Obviously,
this
North.
episode would be a really short one. I think it's going to end up being probably one of the longest that we've had in our history. Explain
there's
that.
yeah, there's a lot to talk about. I feel like there's just so much going on around these national title games. The NAIA, especially this year, is going to be interesting because we actually have a rematch in the title game
Yeah.
this year.
Great. Like the
Um,
odds of that happening are ridiculous.
Absolutely. But I think we could start with the defending national champions,
Absolutely.
Northwestern. Obviously, I mentioned last week, if you guys tuned in, about how Northwestern looked mortal. Not the case this time around. Northwestern was firing on all cylinders. They did a fantastic job of keeping the ball out of Georgetown's hands. Georgetown didn't, they had like 17 minutes time of possession. I think the final total was 17 minutes, 13 seconds.
Yeah.
Unfathomable. I mean, they got him off the field on defense. On offense, they just kept the ball out of Georgetown's hands. Connor McQuillan, fantastic job on the ground with 2 touchdowns to his name, 129 yards rushing. Jalen Gramstead also contributing 200 yards passing and 3 touchdowns of his own. Northwestern clearly knew what they were doing going into this game, and Georgetown just did not have a single answer the entire game.
Yeah, this defense from Georgetown, man, people are talking about, and people, including ourselves, like, this is the team that's going to give Northwestern, like, a really good shot, right? They're going to give them a very good challenge on the defensive side of the ball. Not exactly what we saw. Like, this is the Northwestern team that we kind of expected earlier on, like the last couple of rounds. We saw a lot of clips right there of Michael Story, 3 touchdowns on the day, big catch radius from the long, lengthy receiver for them. He's earned some very appropriate honors because of his performance. And if they can get another one like that out of him or another one of these, I mean, they're going to need it because of this offense that we've talked about in Keiser. But, yeah, it's – you know, you always talk about getting hot at the right time. They certainly seem to have found their rhythm offensively, and the defense stepped up too. For as much as I think it was more of an offensive game, and that's where the talking point should be, the defense obviously did step up for them in a big way.
Absolutely. And this defensive Northwestern, in years past, you always focus on the offense with Northwestern. Their defense has stepped up massively this year. In SP Plus, they're a top 5 defense and a top 4 offense, I think. Like,
Okay.
very, very balanced this year. Their defense has gotten it done. They're a bunch of playmakers. Mosier has 10 interceptions, one of their starting DBs, also brother of another Northwestern Mosier legend. That lineage continues for them. But yeah, this defense gets after it. They're extremely disciplined. They're in the right spots. That's why they get turnovers. But I think in the offensive side of the ball, you talk about rhythm. And I think that's really where Northwestern shines. Maybe not as many big chunk yardage plays as you've seen in years past with guys like Tyson Koima. Obviously, their previous quarterback was an absolute stud and just airing it out all the time. Jalen Gramstead, though, you're able to pace it out a bit better. I equate this team to the D1 fans out there. They're very similar to Oregon.
Okay.
And how they will be balanced in their attack. A guy like Bo Nix can get it done. But they get in rhythm super quickly. And once they're in rhythm, like these short passes, these medium passes, they'll break a big one for 6, and then they just kind of start the steamroll. They start to snowball. That's what I equate it to because that's where they're at this year. When they're in rhythm, they are pretty much unstoppable.
Yeah, and you look at, I think it reflects when you look at the box score of this one. And obviously, I did get to watch, I think just about all of this one until the last couple minutes. I think I did end up turning it off, obviously, because the game was just about all but decided. Yeah, but you look at the way they started this game, it wasn't an offensive explosion in the first or second quarter. Even in the first half, they go into halftime up 14-3. But their scoring, it feels like on just about every time they're touching the ball. Obviously, you have a couple giveaways, some punts, whatever, but they're scoring consistently, scoring every quarter of the game, and then 14-0 in the fourth quarter. That, to me, was like nail in the coffin, put the stamp on it, like we are a better football team than you. And that's, I think more of that is just a confidence builder going into next week more so than finishing off that game. Obviously, you want to put a stamp on it. You're already up 21-10. Let's give a little space and let the people know that we are like a couple scores better than this squad that we showed today. So, yeah, definitely an exclamation point for them. Always noticed, though, on their website, they never have the attendance for the games, which kind of blows. I don't know. For me, I always love to see, like, how many people show out to to these games. So
I will say, as somebody who has played at their stadium a couple times, very good home crowd, very good
yep.
home fan base. Their home
Okay.
stands are very big. I would say there was at least probably 2,000-3,000 people there. They get
32
very good
degrees with
attendance.
some
Yeah,
decent wind, but they probably still showed out.
though, dude, those Iowans don't care about 32
Huh?
degrees, dude. They're probably out there in t-shirt and shorts thinking it's brisk, you know? Like they're like, oh, this is great football weather. But yeah, man, Northwestern, those fans show out, and Northwestern football showed out big time. Obviously, had some question marks about how they were
Yeah.
going to do. They put some stuff on film that teams could exploit. A team like Georgetown could exploit. Georgetown was just kind of on their heels from the get-go and couldn't really
Yes.
recover.
Yes.
Northwestern kept the pressure up and kept it rolling. Credit
Yeah,
to
and we
them.
talked
They
about
looked
their
great.
defense. That offense is certainly they were put in a tough position because they had to come from
Yeah.
behind, and not something that they've had to do a whole lot of. It's a very difficult task, especially a tall task. You're talking about the defending national champs. And by the way, not only wind, it was 23 mile per hour wind. Excuse me, with freezing temperatures already. I would
Yeah.
love to know the feels like in Orange City on Saturday. I might have to I might have to look at that.
It is. It
Holy
is not
shit.
pleasant. I'll tell you, as somebody who has played in Orange City and Sioux City in
Okay.
the months of late October and early
Yeah.
November, not a good time. Not a good time.
The other game might have been played in the exact opposite climate. And while it's not, you know what? Let's see. It says here 79 degrees with a 10 mile per hour wind, partly cloudy down in West Palm Beach, Florida. Keiser, the
Yeah,
Seahawks, they got it done, man.
absolutely. They got it done. And I do have to give credit where credit's due. College of Idaho came to play.
They did.
Holy
They
cow.
did.
This was a back and forth game. Little bit of an ugly football game, dare I say it. College of Idaho came out and really stopped the run for Keiser, which is something that has not happened a lot. But ultimately, you look at red zone scoring for College of Idaho, 3 for 7 in the red zone. They came away with points 3 times.
Yeah.
That is the definition of bend don't break defense. Kaiser's defense ultimately putting the nail in the coffin at the end of the game too. College of Idaho driving to tie it up. Pretty much a red zone goal line stand. Extremely impressive from a Keiser team who has been rolling, but ultimately getting it done against a team that not many people expected to hang around. And I think there's something to be said for kind of taking that adversity head on and being able to come out with a win.
100%. I mean, end of the first quarter, you see there the field goal that will put Keiser ahead. Only 3-0 after the first quarter. So I think after the dust settles, it's a quarter number one, and my reaction at least was, holy shit, like this is going to be a legit football game. And not that I was expecting a blowout by any means, but this Keiser team that we've been very high on, combined with the fact that you're traveling down to Florida and playing a very, very tough away game against a quality opponent. This Yotes team has been an underdog throughout the playoffs. Like you said, they came to play. They scored 14 in the second quarter, and now you go into halftime, 20-14 for them. If you would have told them that before the game started, I think they take that as a victory. Down 6 to a team like this on their home field. You never know what happens in the second half. We do. They both dropped a goose egg in the third quarter, and they both scored in the fourth, and Keiser just ended up having just a few too many points there.
Absolutely. And I think it's a testament too to Kaiser's defense, kind of the more underrated unit of this team for a good chunk of the season. Obviously, we've mentioned Wendell Fillard in the secondary, being able to make plays, obviously, in special teams too, returning the ball. But that front seven, that D line especially, really showed out. They've been extremely good this year, kind of quiet, good, sneaky good. It'll be interesting to see what answers they have for Northwestern coming up, because I think that there are a few more question marks raised about this team than we previously expected.
No, I think you're right, and I think it's going to come down to the rushing attack for me. And we talk with Bryce Veasley here soon, but Northwestern has allowed 8 rushing touchdowns on the year. This Keiser team has become a lot more, I guess, crucial part of their offense than I think I expected. We've seen a lot of their attack coming through the air, but the combination of their two backs right now has been a critical point for the Seahawks team. If they get it done, Kaiser's going to be in the football game, but if they can't get it going on the ground, I think this could actually get ugly for this Keiser team. They have to start it on the ground. If they get that going and you can start to open up your offense, they're totally going to be in this game, but it's going to be very interesting.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to note too that even with the run game, like you mentioned, being the strength of this Kaiser team, can't quite count out their pass game. Obviously, they
Yeah, yeah.
focus a lot on play action. They base a lot on that run game, and obviously their tight end is their leading receiver this year, which is a common occurrence for Keiser.
Yeah,
They rely very heavily on those big guys in the middle to create mismatches and play off of that play action game. I think there's still a window for this team to get it done if they struggle on the ground, but they will have a much taller mountain to climb if
I'd
Mason
agree.
cannot get it rolling.
Yeah.
Obviously, we saw with the College of Idaho game.
Yeah, and the only 9 completions for Keiser and for Veasley in particular. That was kind of the scary point for me. He was 9 for 22. Thankfully, none of those incompletions were actually interceptions, which is, I think, the saving point for this Keiser team. That kept them ahead and kept them at least in a safe enough margin ahead of this College of Idaho squad. But yeah, 9 of 22 on Monday will not get it done for you. They're going to have to be a little bit more efficient through the air, especially when you talk about the play action, dialing those up and getting kind of those better looks. But you're right. The tight end's going to be a big part of that. And that's, I mean, that live and die on play action, your tight end is going to be a huge part of any kind of scheme that revolves around that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the key for Keiser going into the national championship is how can you stay disciplined in your gaps, and how can you get this Northwestern offense out of rhythm, and on the offensive side of the ball, how can you make them undisciplined? How can you get them out of rhythm? That sort of thing.
Yeah, man. Playing on a Monday.
Yeah.
The hell's up with
Monday,
that?
noon, Durham, North Carolina. I don't know. I mean, the D1 national title's on a Monday, isn't it?
That's a great question.
I'm
don't
pretty
know.
sure it is. I mean, either way, like Monday's not the worst day, I guess. You should, and they're doing it at noon, so you're not competing with like primetime slots. But if I
Yep.
do recall, this game is going to be on ESPN, at the very least ESPN Plus, which is great. I love seeing these big games on that stage. But yeah, Monday is kind of weird, but they get an extra couple days to enjoy whatever goes on in Durham, North Carolina. I'm not
I'm gonna
quite
say
sure.
I don't know exactly what that is, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it that where Duke is?
You know what? Hold on.
I think that's where Duke is. I don't know. I mean, I can't say that they're going to go party because that's probably
It
not a good
is.
idea.
Oh
A
yeah,
couple
it is.
days, but hey, maybe to the victor, you get to go on a big boy campus and
You'd be
throw
a
down a little bit.
honorary Blue Devil for the night or something. I wonder
Yeah,
what that looks
something.
like, because obviously neutral site game. It's not like you're going to your hometown watering hole or something like that afterwards. But Bryce told me that they're leaving Thursday, so that's going to be quite the stay there in
Yeah,
Durham. And I'd imagine those guys are trying to get home after win or loss. They're going to try and
yeah,
get out of there, man.
yeah. Hopefully they don't make too bad of decisions, but I don't know. It's out of my hands. So obviously it comes down to them if they want to throw the game away or not. But there's a lot to look forward to in this national title game.
Yeah.
I think you look at Northwestern on the offensive side of the ball, they get a lot done. Again, very efficient. I think for Keiser, the key is just going to be pounding the rock, being able to match what Northwestern brings to the table on offense. Obviously, they've been able to match most offenses they've played. Kaiser's the number one ranked SP plus offense in the NAIA currently.
Woo.
So they've looked really good, but obviously Northwestern has proved they could go blow for blow with anybody. That front seven on Kaiser's defense is going to have to come play. I think Wendell Fillard is going to have to make some plays, which we've seen him do many times. He's an incredible
Yeah.
athlete. And for Northwestern, how can you get Connor McQuillan going? Because obviously he's a dual threat, I guess, running back, like Jalen Grimstead's a dual threat quarterback. Connor McQuillan has a couple hundred receiving yards as well. Having those dynamic pieces in the backfield causes so many problems defensively. Because if you go man, somebody's going to be leaking down the sideline, or Gramsted's going to break one. If you go zone, they're going to be able to pick you apart, and Gramsted's going to be able to read it properly. It's Kaiser's going to have to be super physical. They're going to have to be in Northwestern's face. They're going to have to get pressure if they want to win this game, ultimately.
It is funny. This game, out of the three of them, between D2, D3, and AIA, actually has the least amount of question marks about the matchup, even though these are two pretty different teams than we saw a year ago. And we've mentioned that, obviously. But you look at a matchup like Mines and Harding, and there are so many things that are up in the air. Two different offenses that couldn't look more polarizingly opposite. Teams like North Central, who we assumed that was going to be back, but now they have Cortland, this team and this offense that has exploded, and nobody knows how the Red Dragons are going to match up, because there hasn't been a team from New York that's been in the D3 National Championship in 30 plus years. So we've got a lot more parity in the other levels.
Mm-hmm.
NAIA consistent,
Yeah.
solid. These two teams certainly have deserved their right to be back there. I'm excited, brother. Thank you for coming on here. I told you it'd be more of a brief one tonight, but nonetheless, I appreciate the insight. I'm excited. Do you have a pick for who should we English who we should expect to take it all this year?
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Okay.
Momentum favors Northwestern. Experience probably favors Northwestern a bit. I talked on the NAIA F-ball show before this, which you should check out if you haven't already for NAIA football. Talked with Corey. Corey picked Northwestern for all of the reasons you'd expect, dynamic attack on offense, disciplined defense. I unfortunately have narratives to push. And if you remember last week, right, it's very high on this Keiser team.
Yes. Oh, that clip made its way around the channels a little bit.
I saw the shares on that on Instagram, which I already knew was just like, oh boy, there's some locker rooms looking at this video. Give me Keiser in a super close game because I am not backing off my pick.
I love it.
And yeah, I might be a little bitter about getting my ass kicked by Northwestern for 4 years, but that totally doesn't play into it at all.
No.
Not at all. So if you're, an angry Iowan out there, sorry, this is just how it goes.
Stand on it.
I have agendas, I'm going to stand on that. So yeah, I will say I'm taking Keiser. I expect it to be a great game. Also, quick shout out D3 level to Zaya Owens, Cortland linebacker, number 44, Dakota Wesleyan transfer. I played with him for a couple of years. He's the homie. Yeah, he's been playing on their defense. He's been looking really good. Obviously, there's a picture of him circulating, D3 and Cortland socials of him sitting on the field in disbelief they made it to the Natty. So
that's pretty
excited to watch him ball out. I'll be watching that game for sure.
Sweet. Yeah, we've talked a lot about their offense with guys like Boys and Lapp and Alfano St. John and Burgess and those guys that have been filling up the box scores. But that defense for them is they got their work cut out for them on Saturday.
Yeah, no kidding.
It'd be tough, but I love it, dude. Hey, stand on it. You're gonna finish with that. I love it, dude. Thank you very much, man. I'm excited to tune in. It won't be, like I said, till Monday, so we'll get some pretty recent reactions coming off of that one.
Yeah, no kidding. It should be a good one.
Sweet. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, I'll see you. Take it easy.
Yeah, you too, man. Joining the show tonight, the man under center for a Seahawk offense that has scored the 6th most points in the NAIA this year. How about that stat? It's Bryce Veasley. What's up, man?
Kobe, appreciate you having me on the show, on the platform, man. D1 Rejects.
Hell yeah.
Super fitting for my story. I'm glad to be here.
Hell yeah, man. You and I talked a little bit before this about how some people take offense to the name. You're a perfect example of the quality and the benefit of what that name means. There's so many negative connotations with that. For a guy like you to have been in a couple spots and to really find your place, find your calling on this offense, man, dude. What a full circle moment for you to be playing meaningful football right now in December. And not only that, to be the man for this offense, too. It's got to be exciting.
Super exciting, Kobe. I'm still trying to take it all in. This being my first time on the field, starting, leading the team.
Yeah.
Since the national championship or since the high school state championship run, this is great, man. I'm ready to take on the Northwestern Red Raiders.
Hell yeah, dude. And it's going to be a fun one. We talked a lot about them, obviously. Coming off the run they had last year, they've certainly been tested this year. But let's talk about your squad before we talk about those guys over there. Couple early losses early on to some quality Division II opponents of the Austin State team that we saw make it to the quarterfinals. So now you look back on a couple of those games and you're like, man, we're playing some really tough competition. But whether it's D2, D1, NAIA, still losses. So to have that kind of shaky start to the year, like I said, whether it was against really tough opponents or not, was it ever a challenge to keep the faith together in those guys?
So with us, man, it was blood in the water from the jump. Our scheduling, we all understand how we schedule at NAIA. So the two tough D2 opponents early on in the season, it kind of just made us tighter as a unit.
Hell yeah. I like that. And that can go one of two ways, right? Like it's either going to do that to you, make those boys come together, or it's going to do this and split y'all apart. And I'm glad that it was the former of the two of those. But you kind of alluded to it earlier. Talk about this season for you, because I know the past couple years out of high school, like you said, bouncing around a couple, the Bowling Green, Duquesne, and now landing here last year, did play a good amount of snaps. But like you said, you weren't the starter. Now, coming into this year, being named the guy and having that responsibility and having that role coming into the season, knowing what was ahead of you, what has your mindset been like? And I would imagine it's been a pretty fun year after a couple of those games early on.
Yeah, it's definitely been a monkey on my back, because I just wanted to prove to myself and everyone else that I could be the starting quarterback and lead a team to a championship. And so for me right now, it's just like I say, I'm taking it all in day by day, and we're gonna roll into the national championship ready to ball.
Hell yeah. Only way to do it. That's it. Coming from Duquesne though and making that jump down, I'm curious, what were your expectations like of this Keiser team who you knew had been good in the past, but what were your expectations coming in, and were they exceeded or just about spot on?
Well, my expectations are always been the same, especially when I'm able to, influence and be able to be a part of the culture of the team.
Yeah.
So it's just been my expectations have actually just been exceeded for, what we've been able to accomplish. We set the standard and the goal, and we executed it. And so now we're preparing for that, for what we talked about.
And you're a big part of that. What's your leadership come like? Obviously, last year coming in, still contributing to the team in a lot of big ways, but filling a lot larger shoes this year. How has your leadership with those guys developed? And I'd imagine it's a big piece of it too. Is now you have a built-up rapport with a lot of those guys. You've been there for a year. You've gone through the camp, the spring ball, all those things that make a unit as close as it is. What's your leadership and those kind of attributes look like now as compared to maybe a year ago?
So this year, like the word that me and my coach and the team we talked about is elite. So being elite to me, that's just the little things, being on time, being that guy that's there every day, being reliable, and that's what my leadership has been.
That's it, dude. If you can't do that, you can't do anything. If you can't be counted on as a leader, man, that's the start of everything. But coming from those two previous spots, what did you bring to this team that maybe you've learned at some of your previous spots playing ball with a lot of really talented guys and talented coaching staffs? I wanted to pick your brain on that if anything stood out.
Uh, just the routine, man. Coach Social already had a great idea of it at Kaiser, and me just bringing it in, being able to see it at different schools, different D1s. Uh, Me going to Kaiser, the team was just able to basically I was able to be a leader because I lived it. I lived being at a D1. So for me to go to an NAIA school and be a D1 guy and be a ball player, everybody was able to latch on, and
Absolutely.
they can see success in it.
I hear you. Now, touching on that Northwestern team, we're gonna talk about it a little bit. It's gonna be a fun one Saturday. Really great offense that you guys have been posing all year, but heavy favorite. They have been, even coming into this year, obviously after winning it last year, they've been all but perfect, but not immortal. We've seen, especially the last couple of weeks, they've had some really good challenges from teams like Georgetown or a team like Dort over there a couple rounds ago. But talk about, from your perspective, you've watched these guys without getting into the X's and O's and the nitty gritty of it. What do you guys have to do to come out on top?
Execute our offense, man. Just come out, make the plays. When there's plays to be made, just we have to make those plays. When whether that's me, Andrew Burnett, Jaden Meisinger, or DeAndre Golden, our tight end.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to make plays, and that's what we've been doing all season. So on a big platform, this should be great for all of us.
You talk about a couple of those guys in the offensive backfield there. This Red Raider team's only allowed 8 touchdowns on the ground throughout the entire season. I'd have to imagine those boys back there are excited for the challenge this Saturday.
I'm sure they are. We are too.
Hell yeah. I'm pumped, dude. It's going to be a pretty sweet. Well, where's the game at again? Remind me.
So the game is gonna be in North Carolina
Yeah.
and Riley, I want to say, or no, check. It's in Durham,
Durham.
North
That's
Carolina.
right. That's right.
Durham, North Carolina.
Yeah. Neutral site, a little bit different.
12 o'clock kickoff. Last year, I want to say it was at 1,
Okay.
but we'll be ready. We'll be ready to roll.
You guys flying in?
Well, yeah, we just found out the news. We're flying in. I think we're gonna be leaving West Palm Beach Thursday night and getting into Durham.
Yeah. I'm always interested to hear how that, because you talk about the routine and kind of the setup and everything like that, how much that gets you guys out of your routine maybe or not, and how are you adapting to going on the road and making a little bit of a elongated stay over there?
So last year, it's a funny fact. We were actually a road team. We were known as the Road Warriors.
Okay.
So this year, for us to have 3 home games and be at home for the championship to go on the road, I don't think it'll be an issue.
No.
Nah.
What has stood out to you about this squad, maybe compared to last year, whether it be just offense or the team in general?
The team in general, and then of course I'm the starter now, so I just think my effect on the game and on how things roll, I'm gonna bet on myself every time.
Hell yeah. What is going through, looking back at this year for you guys, and I got a chance to tune into a couple games, but admittedly, obviously not every one. These last couple weeks for sure. Is there a game that stands out to you over the course of this year where you felt like maybe as a starter or just as a team in general, you guys really stepped up to the challenge? I know probably early on, maybe that St. Thomas matchup had to have been one where really tight game against a quality opponent that you guys ended up seeing later on in the playoffs. That probably, for me, I'm curious to pick your brain, does that feel like a spot where you guys really elevated and kind of came into your own?
Yeah, I would agree. That St. Thomas game, it was that first game. It was definitely a dogfight. For them to come to our home field
Yeah.
and get up early on us. Actually, 2 games they got up on us, and for us to stay composed and execute and just be us, and that's what we did.
Absolutely, dude. Sweet. We're rifling through all this shit, man. I love it. But yeah, I mean that's most of what I have for you. I mean, just off the rip, talking about Saturday, you and the boys got to be just elated and got to have a lot of confidence too, I'd imagine, huh?
Yeah, super confident, man. This matchup, we kind of been manifesting it. It's the rematch from last year.
Yeah.
So for us, it's just been blood in the water the whole year. We've been talking about it, and now we're here. So we're gonna be ready.
That's right, man. To go that far and to have it shake out the exact same way is kind of ridiculous, but it happens for good reason. You guys are both playing some really good ball, so there's not really a better matchup to be had. We've seen all the ball we play up to this point.
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah. Well, all right, dude. Well, I told you I'd keep it relatively quick with you tonight. I appreciate you hopping on here with me for a little bit. What are your plans after this year? What's the move for Bryce after hopefully a win on Saturday?
Right now, we're worrying about Bryce has to get a
Good answer.
national
Good
championship.
answer. Yes.
Yeah, Bryce has to get a championship. That's like the only thing on my plate for the rest of this year, and that's what I'm sticking to.
Hell yeah. Don't let anyone bait you out of a different answer. Good fucking answer, Bob. I love it. I love it.
Yes,
dude.
sir.
Thank you for joining me, my man. I appreciate it. Good luck to you on Saturday. Me and the boys will be tuning in.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
See you then, Kobe. Appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir.